Hi, Gene.
Yeah.
This is Bill. How are you?
Hi, Bill. Great.
Say, I just wanted to, I have a few comments.
Okay.
I wanted to talk in different terms, but since we're talking about God.
Okay.
Well, just for Bob's information, you know, God was in town in October visiting a company that's taken over the test site, and his name is Teller.
And he was out.
Pardon?
And he didn't even call us.
Right, that's what I was going to ask. Did he call Bob? However, he was visiting out here, talking to some Hungarian physicists that are part of this new organization. That'll be, over controls, Lockheed and Martin.
God. Teller was in town talking to some Hungarian physicists?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Were these guys he had worked with previously?
They apparently are, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where did you hear this from?
I'd rather not say.
Okay.
It wasn't Lear, right?
No, it wasn't John Lear. It's straight, though. One of the other things, Bob, you know your project code names you identified back in 89 and 90 to George Knapp?
Yeah.
Project Looking Glass.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I heard this on a couple programs on the television here in the past 2 weeks. You know, and they used it in the context of going back in time. I was wondering if you had any information on that. This Project Looking Glass.
No, not really. As far as I know, they were just looking at using a gravity lensing effect to create a small time distortion. I mean, we're talking about something on milliseconds.
Okay.
Nothing as bold as someone attempting time travel or as, technically infeasible as that.
Yeah, I've got a couple more items here. Did any disc that you viewed out at the test site when you were there, did they have a hexagon turret? Or did you notice any with a hexagon turret?
Turret?
Yeah, I'm calling the top the turret, you know.
No.
No?
No, though the subfloor, which separated the, first level where the gravity amplifiers are.
No, I'm talking about the top of the craft.
No.
The round, circular thing that I call it.
Everything was smooth.
Everything was smooth, huh? Mm-hmm. No flat surfaces separating the bottom and the top? About a 3-foot section. Instead of it coming to a point or two sharp edge?
No.
Nothing like that, huh? Okay, when you're inside now, did you get a chance to feel the waveguide?
The waveguide that comes out of the reactor?
The tube.
Yeah.
What was it, cold or hot?
It was cold.
Okay, how cold?
Just, I guess, cooler than room temperature. I had made the same comment about the skin of the craft itself. That's why I said it was metal because it felt cool, but that was my only observation. It could have been some other exotic material,
but you didn't try and stick your tongue to it, right?
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't that cold anyway.
Yeah, it's insulated too. One other thing. The other item I got is, your small grades that you got in your S4 saucer that test yourself?
It's not my S4 saucer, but yeah.
Okay, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I thought that possibly, you were instrumental in that design, weren't you?
In the design of the craft, yeah. But
and
not
also,
in the addition of the aliens.
Also the diversion of the aliens that were in there?
No. Testers felt obligated to put those in there for some reason.
Oh, testers.
They wanted it just to show scale.
Yeah. I noticed they're putting out an 8-inch version of that little dude that was inside the S4, your disc.
Yeah, I had heard that.
Yeah.
In fact, the president of Tester Corporation emailed us this morning and told us that, but we hadn't seen it. I guess I hadn't really looked for it. Has anyone seen it in any local hobby shops?
I bought them all out of California.
Oh, all of the little alien models?
I bought them all, yeah.
Tester said no stores have picked them up, that only the hobby stores are selling.
Only the hobby shops, no major chains like Walmart and Toys R Us, things like that. Is it a pretty good model? How does it work?
It's not bad. I've been selling them. They've been, buying them.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Is that all you got for us, Bill?
Well, I got another item.
Well, go ahead.
The other point that I wanted to make, you described the disk as the disk drive as being capable of bending space-time.
Yeah.
Okay. And we all know that space-time is interface, or the space is interfaced with time. So therefore, I wondered if
space, time, and gravity are all interrelated.
I wondered if the operations personnel, during the time that you viewed liftoff, did they have any kind of barricades or anything, or indicate that you shouldn't stand too close?
Well, it was out on the edge of the dry lake bed there. We were inside the hangar. No one was outside.
Yeah, okay.
No one was outside at all. Everyone just lined up by the hangar door.
Yeah, I was just wondering, about some memory loss and that type of thing, if you were close to that distortion field.
No, wasn't close there.
Not that close, huh?
No.
Hey, you got a good man on there, John Lair.
You got any questions for John?
Hey, treat him nice.
Okay, we will.
I spent a short time with him, but he's an okay guy.
All right.
Thanks for your call.
See you later.
Bob, you were, in effect, recruited, I think, by Edward Teller. I have a friend who's listening to the show this morning as we speak, believe it or not, all the way down in Perth, Australia. His name is Stan Deyo, and he was also recruited by Edward Teller. And he's got a question or two for you. I'm going to see if we can bring him up. All the way from Perth, Australia, there's a slight delay in the phone line transmission. Stan, are you there?
Yeah, Art.
Okay, very good. Bob Lazar is on the line, and I know you followed the Lazar story, and you might briefly, just very briefly, recap yours and ask a question.
All right, very briefly, I was working in the computer business in Dallas in 70, 71. And among other things, I was also doing some investigation for the FBI at the corporations where I was working as an undercover kind of plant. During this time at this company where I was working, it was a large corporation. It was called Daltex Optical at the time. It had 100 sub-corporations, and a lot of them operated in Nevada. And during the time I was there, I was approached by one of the senior executives of this company to go meet with a Dr. James R. Maxfield at the Radiation Research Clinic over a couple miles from where we had the office in Dallas. And I didn't go for about a month, and then I met this same executive at a morning coffee in the executive tea room. And he said to me I hadn't been to see his friend Maxfield, and the reason he'd asked me to go was because I had talked to him about some work that I've been doing in my time off, my private time at home, in my own laboratory, working with two things. One was a thermionic electrical converter, and the other was a rather novel method, I thought, of propelling a flying aircraft, which was circular-shaped and, flying saucer, you'd call them today. Anyway, in the course of having told this guy just over coffee, well, he kind of got reasonably interested in it and told me I ought to go talk to a friend of his, and didn't do it. So 30 days passed, and he says to me, look, you haven't been to see Jim Maxfield yet. Please go this afternoon. I've booked you an appointment at 3. So I go over to this place, and it's not like a place that sees people very often. It was open. The door was kind of ajar, but there was no cars in front of it and daylight. And I walked in. The lights were off down the hallway, and I walked down the hallway, and it was kind of dark. And suddenly this nurse, I guess a receptionist type lady, appears out of nowhere from the side and says, "Yes, can I help you?" I said, "Oh, gee, I didn't know anybody was here. Look, I think I've got the right building. I'm looking for this Dr. James R. Maxfield." And she said, "Oh, yes, Dr. Maxfield is here. He'll be out in just a second. He's down the lab." And so, sure enough, within a minute or so, this big, tall dude comes out in a white medical coat, smoking a cigar and wearing cowboy boots, and says, yes, I've been expecting you. Come on into my office." And at this time is when I first got introduced to this clandestine organization in the United States that was headed by Dr. Edward Teller, and who Maxfield worked with Teller. And this organization had been working since the mid-50s on something like 50-some-odd projects, all related directly to flying saucer technology, if you wish to put it down to that level. I was just the latecomer on the scene. They showed me about their base down at the South Pole and the ice cap, how you had to access it by submarine or something similar. And they explained to me they knew what I was doing. They even knew what I was thinking, virtually, because they asked me about my physics, and I said, well, look, thinking I was talking to some of the greatest physicists in the world, which I was. I didn't have my degree in that area, and I said, well, look, guys, sir, been working on a way to unify gravitational, electromagnetic, and magnetic effects. And he said, "Oh, look, spare me all that." He said, "You're working on anti-gravity, and let's get to the meat of the matter. How are you doing it?" And that's when when he started telling me that I need to finish my research with them down in Australia instead of America. And that's why I'm here today, is because those guys packed me up and sent me down here. We parted ways in 1972 or 3, I think it was. I was only with them for about a year. And I got rather disenchanted with all the technology they were holding back from the people. I still was young enough to think that we could save the world by giving technology to countries that needed food and grain and water and stuff shipped back and forth rather rapidly. But anyway, because of that, we parted ways in a real huff, and I kind of hid in the bush for a while because they really kind of thought it'd be better if I was buried. And then after coming out of that, I wrote the book, The Cosmic Conspiracy, to kind of be insurance, and told a lot of what I had gone through in there and left the rest for, I'll tell the rest if you get short with me. So now that's my side, Bob.
That's a
did you ever run
sounding
into
story.
Did you ever run into Jim Maxwell at all on your side of it?
No, I haven't. Actually, now I've got 1,000 questions now, but one of the a prominent one on my mind here is what was Teller's function?
He seemed to be in charge or overseer of all the projects at the highest level. That's all that I was told.
See, this is something I've always wondered about the project down where I worked, and no one really ever spoke of him, but I got just a gut feeling that he was silently in charge of everything. And what you're saying is also very interesting, because a lot of what you're talking about seems to mimic some of the things we were working on.
In fact, Bob, if I remember right, when Teller called you, when you originally got the call from him to contact the gentleman at EG&G, Teller said that he was no longer active but worked in a chief consultant capacity.
That's right.
Something happened after I left, because, in fact, I'll tell you, I had minders appointed down here who really run this country and run the prime ministers. My minders operate out of a group called the Melbourne Club, and they're, the old kind of British Raj, cigars and port, white-haired guys. Anyway, they brought me into their halls of power, and I had lunch a few times with the kingpins there, and my mentor was Sir John Williams and Sir Henry Somerset. Anyway, we were sitting there one day at lunch, and they were talking amongst themselves about someone moving in on them, or they were like an undeclared war status, and that they were losing. And they never mentioned aliens or all that kind of stuff, so don't jump the gun. But I heard them say, "Well, yeah, Henry, it looks like we're going to lose this. They're just moving in." And I waited, and nothing else was said. And I said, "Well, excuse me, gentlemen." I said, by they, thinking I'd be clever, I said, "Do you mean the European Economic Community?" Because we've been talking, large corporate or money deals in the country. And they both looked at me like I'd, done a root at the table or something, and said, maybe we'll do some fishing up the farm this weekend, Henry. Yes, John. And, immediately I knew that I asked a question that I should have known the answer to already and didn't. Anyway, they indicated at that point that they were being taken over. Well, I got away from the organization and wrote the book and all that. Years passed, and about 7 years ago, I have a friend in Scottsdale, Arizona, named Conrad Murphy. And Conrad goes to a lot of places. He races boats and cars, and he's fairly active fellow in business. Anyway, Conrad was invited to give the morning devotional at some big business breakfast, like for the Arizona 500 Club or something like that. And so he rang me. He says, "Look, guess who I'm going to give the breakfast benediction right next to, who's sitting right next to me next week is Edward Teller." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Can you get to Dr. Teller and say, take a message. I want to talk to him." He said, "Not a problem." So I waited and waited, and the week passed, and so Conrad rang me back, and he says, "Wow." He says, "Well, I sat next to him," and he said, it was all kind of, normal conversation, give the benediction, eat a bit. And he says, after he'd had a couple of bites, I said to him, "Look, what do you know about this fellow named Stan Deyo, down in Australia working on anti-gravity and flying saucers? And he said, Teller looked at him very blankly and said, don't know the fellow. He says, oh, that's odd. And he reaches in his coat and pulls out a copy of my book with my photo on it and turns it up in front of Ed Teller. He said the blood drained out of his face. And he looked away, and a general over on the side who was in uniform came over and took Teller and said, Dr. Teller's got another meeting, and took him away. So I wondered at that point whether Teller was in charge of anything anymore. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do. That's very interesting.
I've never been able to get back to the team. It's, I think they did lose. Whatever was trying to take them over did.
And so anyway, after all of that, Stan had to sort of lay low for a while, and he just sort of ended up staying in Australia.
Well, Art, I had to give up my U.S. citizenship to keep from being extradited at the time that they were trying to get to the bottom of this, okay? I'd love to be back in the States.
Were they trying to prosecute you for anything? I mean, what was...
Well, I wasn't sure
like
how it was going to go.
Of story missing.
Sorry, say again?
See, that's the delay we have.
Oh,
sorry, my fault.
No, just go on. It just what was the reason? What were you? Were they trying to prosecute you for?
There were a number of things, Bob. One of them was that. There were a number of things. Jeez, can I just put the dog on? She wants to say something here. Just a second. I don't know. As I said to you, I was doing some undercover work for the FBI, and they deny, of course, that there were 700 of us doing.
It's a clear dog from Australia. Believe me, it's coming through very clearly.
These are the most popular dogs on the planet. They've seen a bird out here, and they're trying to eat it.
All right. Well, the question is, Stan, were they trying to prosecute you, or were there threats on your life? How serious was it?
Both. When I went underground, they had really determined they were going to put me underground permanently in Melbourne.
Well,
as a result, I ran, and for a little over a year, I traveled in the Australian bush with, let the hair grow out and wore the sunglasses and traveled with the hippies and whatever just disappeared. Finally, I got hungry and had to come back in, and when I did, I came in under an assumed name and worked for a while, but eventually they caught up with me because I applied for work in companies and had to show my passport.
Can I interrupt you for a second? What was the threat that you presented to them?
Well,
were they afraid of the information that you had, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was their main concern, that you were running around with information that you could possibly divulge to someone else, and.
Well, first of all, I would be able to identify them. I mean, I could identify, like by name, the people that were head of it in the Aeronautical Research Center at Fisherman's Bend in Melbourne, and in the Australian Club, who, of course, control the prime ministers of this country. And there was a number of things that I was privy to that would be rather embarrassing. But in their defense, let me say this. Now that I've had time to think about it, if I'd have been in their position and they were holding the secrets they were and were under the pressures they were, I would probably have ordered my execution as well. It's bigger than one person's life. It's a really, I'm sure you would appreciate this, Bob. What we're talking about is a cover-up of incredible proportions.
Were you able to continue your research, or did they have all the requisite hardware?
Of course they did. I did do some. I did play around a bit what I could do, but I didn't have access to high-temperature coating. I couldn't put my barium titanate or anything else on the capacitive surfaces. But your that video you did with the little ship that had the thermionic converter on it, I don't know why you had to have an element, whatever it was, 1115, because we were quite aware that you could convert thermal energy at around 37 gigahertz on the sampling frequency. You could take random heat and convert it into flowing electric energy.
Well, that's just a thermionic generator. I mean, yeah.
That's it.
But all that does that's just providing electrical power.
That's correct. As I say, we didn't need 115 to do that, though.
Well, yeah, no one does. I mean, that's how. Space thermionic generators just use plutonium to warm essentially a thermocouple using the Seebeck effect or whatever to produce electrical energy. However, the basis of the craft that I worked on, the electrical energy was merely a byproduct. That was not how the entire craft operated. That's where the 115 came in.
Now, the other thing I noticed here is you were using gravity wave A and gravity wave B focus fields.
Mm-hmm.
in the stuff we were working on, the field we would generate was in a toroidal field that would curl.
Well, that's exactly how this was generated. It was essentially in a toroid around the craft.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I just have some of the animators gave me some fantastic graphics that I haven't really been able to post anywhere, but I did want to put them up on the web somewhere because there are a lot of people that are interested in the actual propagation of the gravity field, and I was just about to give those to the guys that handle our web page, and it might be worth having a look at that.
What's the website?
Look,
Is it on your site?
Just go to my site and you'll be able to jump right over. Stan, we're out of time in this half hour, but from what I've heard, I think that you two should be communicating.
I know. Well, I never have been able to reach Bob. He kind of did like I did, went to ground, I think.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll provide Bob with your number in Perth.
Okay.
With your permission. Is that all right?
Fine. Excellent.
All right.
Nice talking to you, Bob.
Email might work well, too, right?
Yes, it does work well, and we can make those arrangements as well. So.
Well, that would be fine. Yeah, I'd like to talk to him.
All right, Stan. Thank you very much, and we'll put you two in contact. All right.
Good night.
All right. Good night.